Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, we're going to be doing some Intarsia. So really cool, and I will go on record and say I've never done Intarsia on camera for you guys, so I'm really ready to document the process. I've already done one small project behind the camera, behind the scenes in my free time, just to see if I enjoyed the process. And I've done some scroll saw segmentation on camera, and that's totally different. That's where you just take one piece, cut everything out, and then sand it and glue it back together. Intarsia is taking several different species of woods and letting the natural colors come out. You do not stain it, you do not paint it, you do not dye the wood, but it's essentially the same thing, and you just go through and contour and shape everything and then glue it back together to make a beautiful wooden portrait or landscape scene, like maybe a lake, a river, a mountainscape, or something like that. I've already got the project picked out, and it's from the latest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine, Fall 2023, issue 92. This is the fall edition, so what better way to kick off the spooky season than doing a Small Intarsia Mummy. Now this pattern is really small. I've made it a little bit bigger since I'm unfamiliar with the Intarsia process. The design is by Brad Eklund and Hazel Trinidad. I hope I'm pronouncing those names right. And the full-size pattern is on the following page, and you can see it's very small. The pattern I have that I photocopied 4 times is just a tad bit bigger, just to help me get into the process of doing Intarsia and shaping and contouring everything. And I think this is meant to be like a little refrigerator magnet or something you put in like a gift basket for Halloween or give out as treats. And as I said, I've already got the pattern photocopied several times and attached to some of our material. I'm going to be using walnut to do the eyes of the mummy, and then the mummy's face is between the bandages there. I'm going to be using yellow pine for the mummy's eyes. That'll give them kind of like almost like a rustic bloodshot look, I hope. And then also I'm going to be using ambrosia maple for the mummy's wrappings here. And I thought the spalting in here would look really cool to show off the griminess of like the mummy being in the tomb and everything, and then he comes back and everything. So really neat. And what I like to do when I'm doing a project like this, like segmentation and now Intarsia, is on the reverse side of the material, I will take like a pencil or crayon and just scrawl on the back side here to make sure that I know which side I will be shaping and contouring later on in the video. So really neat. I've got to finish attaching the pattern to this piece, and because of the nature of it, we will be using blue painter's tape and some spray adhesive to get him attached. So let's move the camera and get started. And over here on the workbench, we're going to begin by putting down some blue painter's tape on the ambrosia maple so we can attach the pattern with spray adhesive. And then I'll also put clear packing tape over that just for added reassurance. And over here at the drill press, we'll drill the only 2 pilot holes required for the mummy's eyes. And then at the scroll saw, I'll put some blue painter's tape down on the table to mask off where the blade hole is in the table, and this just ensures that I can keep up with all of the small parts and that they will not fall through the hole where the blade goes. And the blue painter's tape does not leave no residue on the scroll saw table, it just quickly peels away. I am now cutting out the 1/2 inch walnut here. I am using a number 2 reverse tooth blade for all the cutting on this. I wanted as thin of a curve line as I could be, and with everything needing to be sanded and fit back together like a puzzle, I'm being as loyal as I can to the cut line. And you see me now proceeding to the mummy's face, and I peeled away that blue painter's tape because all these pieces are a little bit bigger. And I'll begin by cutting out the perimeter and releasing the whole piece as one so we can trace for a backer board with 1/4 inch material. And I will cut slightly to the inside of the cut line, that way the piece is not as big. And now we are releasing all of the smaller pieces for the mummy's bandages. And it took me around 20 minutes to cut out everything. It is not a lot of scroll work on this project. The time you're going to have in it is all of the sanding and contouring process. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. Now that all of the scrolling is done, I'm taking all the pieces over to the workbench and removing the blue painter's tape, and it just essentially peels off like a post-it note, so it's easy removal. And now we will begin shaping and contouring everything. And again, with me,
marking the back side of all the pieces with a pencil, I know what side to shape and contour. And I don't have an industrial drum sander like people that mainly do Intarsia have. I've just got my Marathon rotary tool here and various other sanders in the workshop. If you really want to see some beautiful examples of the Intarsia process, I would highly encourage you to go follow Cy at Cy's Corner. She does amazing Intarsia work, and I'll leave a link to her channel down in the description box below. And over here at the spindle sander, I am shaping everything, all of the ambrosia maple, and I'm just sanding it to where it looks decent to my eyes and matching the vision I have of the project in my head. But on an Intarsia project, you're going to do more time sanding everything than actually cutting. And I'm just going to finer and finer grit sandpaper, and I'm gluing the mummy's pupils into the eyes with some Gorilla Wood glue here. And now I can begin shaping them to fit in the walnut here of the face. And again, it's just a tedious process making sure everything fits properly. And now a final high grit sanding before the final assembly. And once again, this pattern comes from the latest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine by Fox Chapel Publishing from the fall 2023 issue. Thank you guys for always producing amazing patterns. And now a little bit of touch up before we go and do the glue up. And I'm going to use both a combination of CA glue and wood glue for this. I'm using CA glue for that instant bond and grab, and I'll use wood glue on the back of it for that more permanent and stronger bond. And I'm assembling everything here on a board that I know is perfectly flat. And I will glue this up in sections, giving the CA glue time to fully cure. And you see me consulting the magazine there to make sure I'm assembling everything properly. But I can tell you that the Intarsia form is a labor of love with all of the sanding in it, and I can see how people can get lost in that world creating beautiful images. Now I'm gluing on the backer board with the Gorilla Wood glue, as well as some CA glue around the perimeter and some spring clamps, and I'll let this dry around 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and do a final sanding around the edges and remove all the excess sawdust with a tack cloth here, pushing it down into all the crevices. And then it will be time for finishing with several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and the project is complete.
And here we have the Small Intarsia Mummy cut out completely on the scroll saw, and he finished up amazingly well. Really, really cool. This is my very first Intarsia video, and I hope you guys have liked it. It only took me around 20 minutes to scroll everything out. It's not a very complicated pattern. Again, it's just small, and keep in mind that I made it bigger than the actual project, so it's supposed to be a lot smaller than this, a little bit bigger than a 50-cent piece, I believe, but really, really neat. The time that you're going to put into this project is not going to be cutting everything out, even though there are some small pieces to cut out. The time that you're going to put into this project is the sanding, shaping, and contouring all the pieces after they are cut out. And you see, I use my little parts bin there to keep up with everything during the whole scrolling process. And I use the sanders and everything to shape everything. And you can sand everything as much or as little as you want. It depends on what your vision of the finished project looks like in your mind. So I had a lot of fun here, and it took me around an hour to sand and shape everything, and then we glued everything. I used a combination of Gorilla Wood glue and also CA glue. I used CA glue for the quick settingness of it to where I could quickly get the project completed and assembled, and I used Gorilla Wood glue to glue the back on and then the eyes in, and that's a more permanent bond. And once it completely cures on the backer board here, I will be able to put a little hanger on it and hang it proudly. Now, of course, the original one was supposed to be like a little refrigerator magnet. I think this would be way too heavy for a magnet to hold unless you got a strong enough magnet. So just keep that in mind. Now, of course, I use the natural wood colors here, as is the Intarsia style, to simulate everything. I think the Spalton and the Ambrosia Maple really looks like the mummy's wrappings are grimy and dirty from just years of decrepitness, you know. And then the yellow pine for the eyes, and then the walnut for the face, and then the pupils of the mummy. I use 3 different species of wood here, and then some 1/4-inch material for the backboard here. And of course, I cut it out smaller than the actual piece so it wouldn't be seen when the piece is held up like this. And the Rust-Oleum clear gloss at the end really brought all the colors and naturalness of the grain out. And I really enjoyed making this just in time for the spooky season. Now, I said at the very beginning of the video that I already made another small Intarsia project behind the scenes and off camera to try and get my feet wet in the Intarsia process, and I of course made the mummy the first time around. So now I have two. Maybe I'll give one away and keep one out in the workshop. Of course, this was my very first Intarsia piece. Again, I'd done segmentation, so this was a whole new level, taking the different wood species and combining them to make this awesome little decorative piece. And if I had the proper like drum sanders and everything out here, I'm sure I would do more Intarsia work. If you guys like this project, please let me know. I hope it has inspired you to at least try the Intarsia process. Once again, the pattern came from the latest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine, fall 2023, issue 92, and the pattern and the article for this amazing little project is on page 61 and 62, and there you see the full size pattern and how small it really is compared to everything else. Of course, I just enlarged it and made several copies of it, and that's the normal process for Intarsia. You make several copies of the pattern and attach everything to the different species of wood to combine everything. But really cool. I had a lot of fun in this video, and I hope you guys like watching me make this project. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as links to all my socials will always be linked down in the description box below. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.